National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich submitted to the National Assembly the 2019-2020 budget estimates at least 2 months before the end of the current financial year, as required by the Constitution and the Public Finance Management Act of 2012. The 2.8 trillion shillings budget is a climb down from the 3 trillion shillings 2018-2019 budget that was slashed mid-year, with key sectors forced to make do with lower allocations. Government expenses and other aspects of recurrent expenditure are projected at 1.7 trillion shillings, with priorities in the 2019-2020 budget aligned to President Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy pet project, the Big Four agenda. County governments will be allocated 310 billion shillings, though governors and senators insist on more funds for the 47 devolved units. 5.8 billion shillings is set aside for Equalization Fund to cater for critical development expenditure in water, roads, health and energy in marginalized areas to improve services. Another 5 billion shillings has been provided to cater for unseen expenditures. In the financial year 2019-2020, the government hopes to generate 1.8 trillion shillings in ordinary revenues and another 238 billion shillings in appropriations in aid. Parliament has raised concerns on how realistic the government revenue targets were and the risk of plunging the country into further debts, since the deficit is always factored in the budget. The 2019-2020 budget has a shortfall of 607 billion shillings, meaning the government will have to seek foreign and local loans, adding on to the rising debt burden that stands at 5.4 trillion shillings and is projected to hit the 7 trillion shillings mark by 2020 when Kenyatta's 10-year tenure ends. The government hopes to borrow 324 billion shillings from foreign nations and agencies and a further 289 billion shillings from local sources. Kenyatta's legacy project, the Big Four agenda, has been allocated 450 billion shillings. The agenda's enablers allocated 374 billion shillings, while aspects that will facilitate the agenda's realization have been allocated 76.7 billion shillings. Food security has been allocated 15.6 billion shillings, with 38.5 billion shillings set aside for universal health care. Affordable housing and manufacturing has been allocated a combined sum of 14.3 billion shillings. Agriculture, water and irrigation sectors has been allocated 72.3 billion shillings, with 25 billion shillings set aside for construction of dams. Water and sewerage infrastructure, as well as irrigation, allocated a total of 37 billion shillings. The transport sector will receive 74 billion shillings, with phase 2 of the standard gauge railway construction from Nairobi to Naivasha allocated 55.8 billion shillings. Lapsset and Mombasa Port Development are set to receive 18.2 billion shillings in the 2019-2020 financial year. Construction, maintenance and rehabilitation of roads has been allocated 180.9 billion shillings, with the sector seen as an enabler of economic development. The energy sector will receive more than 68.9 billion shillings, with power transmission and geothermal development allocated 62.9 billion shillings. A huge chunk of the 2019-2020 budget will be channeled to national security. The Ministry of Defence will receive in excess of 104 billion shillings, with the National Intelligence Service allocated 37.7 billion shillings. House allowances for police and prison officers pegged at 22.8 billion shillings, while leasing of motor vehicles, National Integrated Identity Management Systems NIMS, popularly known as Huduma Number Registration, Police and Prisons Medical Insurance Scheme, have been allocated billions of shillings. With free primary and secondary programs, recruitment of teachers, university education and construction of technical training institutes allocated substantial amounts of money. Other key beneficiaries of the budget include sports, youth and tourism, social protection, as well as women and youth empowerment. Francis Gachuri, Citizen TV.